The words struck him harder than the midday sun. The rancher froze where he stood, sweat rolling down his weathered face, the wide-brimmed hat casting shadows over his cautious eyes. In front of him, on the splintered oak table inside the old ranch house, lay a long, narrow bundle wrapped tightly in brown cloth. He hadn't put it there. When he came in from the stables, it was already waiting, as though someone or something had left it for him. And now the stranger, a woman he had only just met, was telling him to uncover it. Her eyes were steady, unblinking, like she was daring him to refuse. She wasn't from town, he was sure of that. No one in the small settlement 2 miles down the road carried themselves the way she did, with a mixture of sorrow and command. Dust clung to her dress, her boots were worn thin, and her voice had a sharpness that suggested she had seen far worse than most men ever would. She stood by the window, the fading light painting her silhouette against the horizon of the Wild West, and repeated softly, "Take it off. You need to see." Every instinct in him screamed to walk away. The ranch had enough of its own troubles without strangers and their secrets. Cattle rustlers, drought, the constant threat of raids from desperate men. He was already fighting to keep his land alive. But there was something about her tone, about the strange weight in the air, that kept him rooted. He reached out slowly, his rough hands trembling more than he cared to admit, and tugged at the corner of the cloth. The fabric gave way with a soft hiss, dust spilling into the air. The first glimpse made his stomach clench. It wasn't metal, not wood, not a tool or a weapon like he expected. It was pale, too pale, like skin that had never seen the sun. His heart slammed against his ribs as he pulled the cloth back further, and horror crawled up his spine. Inside the bundle lay an arm, a human arm. Perfectly preserved, stiff as if frozen in time, with long fingers curled slightly inward. Not decayed, not rotting, but eerily lifelike, as though it had been severed only moments ago. The rancher stumbled back, nearly knocking over his chair. "What in God's name?" he muttered, his voice catching in his throat. The woman didn't flinch. She stepped closer, her shadow stretching across the table, and stared at the arm with a look that was neither surprise nor fear. She had expected this. She knew what it was. "It isn't just an arm," she said, her voice low, almost reverent. "It's a warning. A piece of a man who tried to claim what wasn't his." He swallowed hard, the room spinning. His hand went to the revolver at his hip, though what good a gun would do against something like this, he didn't know. He looked at her sharply. "Whose arm is that? Where did you get it?" She met his gaze, her eyes dark and stormy. "From this land," she said, "buried under it. And if you're not careful, it will claim more than just a limb. It will claim you too." Her words sank deep, chilling him more than the desert night ever could. The rancher thought back to the stories he had overheard in town, whispers about the land he bought so cheap. Folks said it had been cursed, that no man who owned it lasted long. The lawyer who signed the papers waved it off as superstition. But now, staring at that severed arm lying on his kitchen table, the rancher wasn't so sure. He leaned forward, his breath shallow, eyes fixed on the thing before him. The skin seemed almost too real, the veins faintly visible beneath the surface, the nails sharp and intact. This wasn't a relic dug out of dry earth. This was fresh, and the cloth, he realized now, was stitched with symbols, strange markings he had never seen before. Not ranchers' marks, not brands, something older, something darker. The woman placed her hand gently on the cloth, as if to calm it, as if the limb itself was alive. "You bought this land," she said, her voice nearly a whisper. "But the land never belonged to you. It still doesn't. Men before you tried to take it. The land took them back, piece by piece." She looked at him then, and in her eyes was not malice but pity. "This is only the beginning. Unless you understand what lies beneath these fields, you'll end the same way." The rancher felt his blood run cold. He thought he had bought a ranch. What he hadn't realized, what he couldn't have realized, was that he had stepped into something far older, far more dangerous. And now, with the cloth stripped away, there was no going back. He Rancher's breath came heavy, his boots creaking against the wooden floorboards as he stepped back from the table. The arms still lay there, pale and stiff, almost mocking him. He couldn't look away. The more he stared, the more it seemed alive. Like the fingers might twitch, like the hand might clench into a fist at any second. A bead of sweat ran down his temple, his calloused hand never leaving the grip of his revolver. The woman moved slowly, her presence filling the room as if she had been there longer than the walls themselves. "You're thinking of burning it," she said, reading him like a book. "But fire won't do it." "That's been tried before. Every piece taken from this land finds its way back. No matter how far you carry it, no matter how deep you bury it, it returns. This place always calls what belongs to it home." Her words were like a rattlesnake's rattle, steady and ominous. He shook his head, refusing to believe. "This is madness," he muttered. "This is a trick. Somebody's trying to scare me off my own land." His voice lacked conviction. He wanted it to be true, just some cruel joke, a way for envious neighbors to drive him away from fertile soil. But deep inside, beneath layers of stubborn pride, he knew the truth ran deeper. The woman finally looked at him, her gaze sharp as a knife. "You think I'm the first to tell you this?" she asked. "You think you're the first man to hear the warning? Every rancher before you was told the same. Some listened, most didn't. You can ask the town if you don't believe me. Ask them how many men bought this land. Ask them how many were buried in it." A silence fell so heavy it pressed against his chest. The clock ticked on the wall, the sound of each second stretching longer than the last. He wanted to argue, wanted to shout her down, but the evidence sat right there on his table, undeniable, grotesque, real. He forced himself closer again, leaning over the arm, studying it. That's when he noticed something he hadn't before. Around the wrist, faintly etched into the skin, were the same strange markings that ran along the cloth. He reached out instinctively, fingertips brushing over the markings. The flesh was cold, harder than he expected, almost stone-like. And yet, the second his skin touched it, a jolt ran through him, a shiver that climbed his spine and rattled his teeth. He stumbled back, gasping, his hands stinging as though burned. The woman's eyes widened slightly. "It knows you now," she whispered. "The land has tasted you." The rancher swore under his breath, gripping his hand like he could wring the sensation out. His revolver felt useless at his side, a child's toy against something far beyond lead and gunpowder. He wanted to throw the whole bundle out the window, to bury it deep in the desert where no one could find it, but some force heavier than reason kept him from moving. The arm wasn't just an object, it was a tether. And now he was bound to it. He staggered to the sink, pumping water into the basin, splashing his face with cold relief. But even as the water ran down, he saw it in the rippling reflection. Behind him, the arm seemed to shift. Not much, just a fraction, but enough that the position of the fingers looked different than before. He spun around, revolver drawn, but the bundle sat still, silent, like it hadn't moved at all. The woman didn't move either. She only watched him, a sorrowful calm in her eyes. "You're not listening," she said. "That isn't a warning left for you. That is you, or it will be. Every man who claims this ranch leaves something of himself behind, whether he means to or not. That's why the land still stands. It's fed by the men who thought they could own it." The rancher's chest tightened. His whole life, he had fought to carve something of his own out of the world. The city had spat him out. The mines had nearly killed him. All he wanted was this, a stretch of land to call his own, cattle under his care, quiet nights under the stars. And now this stranger was telling him it would cost him more than money, more than sweat. It would cost him pieces of himself until nothing remained. "Why are you here?" he demanded, his voice breaking into a shout. "If this land is cursed, why show me this? Why bring that thing into my house?" His words shook the rafters, but the woman didn't flinch. She walked slowly toward the door, her boots echoing on the wooden planks. She placed her hand on the frame and glanced back at him. "Because you still have a chance. Because unlike the others, you're being given a choice. Leave now while the land will still let you, or stay and watch yourself unravel piece by piece. The door creaked open, the desert night pouring in, cold, star-filled, unforgiving. She stepped out into the darkness without another word, vanishing as though the earth swallowed her whole. The rancher stood alone, the arm lying silent in its shroud on his table, the weight of her warning pressing heavier than any saddle he'd ever carried. For the first time, he wondered if buying this ranch hadn't been a blessing at all, but the gravest mistake of his life.